Episode 122. Stand up even if it means standing alone.
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
And we're going to continue this week with solitude. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the very best podcast in the world, your only source in the universe for personal supremacy through health, wealth, and happiness. Yesterday, we spoke about escaping societal conditioning. And once you've kind of freed yourself from societal influences, you can feel sometimes like you're alone in the world, like nobody shares or few people share the enlightenment of having seen what you have seen, of having experienced what you have experienced. Mainly the different cultures, for instance, the different ways of doing business. You know, if you're one of these cosmopolitan people, then, you know, it's kind of difficult to find folks to exchange with because your societal, your cultural horizon is quite more broad than that of the people around you, and that happens quite frequently. So the next logical step is going to be that you're going to feel isolated, and if you're not used to that, it's a difficult feeling to deal with. So I decided, therefore, that today's and tomorrow's episode are gonna have the spin of being alone and dealing with it, because it's okay, once you've learned it, right? No, I'm not talking about isolation like in jail, or isolation like in whatever your worst nightmare of isolation is, right? I'm talking about people being around you, but despite the fact that you try to speak with them, you just can't seem to get on the same level because you know shit they don't. And you know shit they don't to an extent where it is anywhere between difficult and impossible to convey to them without them having been there. Let me give you an example, right? I worked in the Maldives. It's for those of you who don't know, it's a group of I don't know, probably north of 100 islands. I forget, honestly, in the middle of the Indian Ocean. So, follow the tip of India southwards, and then comes this little pearl of gems, beautiful, gorgeous islands. And most of them are resorts. Most of the inhabitable ones. There are inhabited ones by locals, but a major part of the population kind of lives in the main city island, which is, a little bit more than 2 square kilometers, if I recall correctly. So not a lot of room for, partially, I think 180,000 people living there. So it was like this insane feeling to arrive there for the first time and to step out of the airplane, step out of the airport, and be surrounded by this pristine blue water. You see the pictures in your, travel magazines and everything. and you think, God damn, that's a great job at photo shooting. The water can't, photoshopping, sorry. The water can't possibly be that beautiful, pristine, perfect turquoise blue. It just doesn't work out. And then you arrive there and you just look into the water. This is, where all the boats land to transport all the tourists to the islands, or to distribute them, for lack of better words, to the resorts, for them to have their vacation. And even there, it was like you just step out of there and you look at the water and you're like, holy shit. And you have this warmth from the weather that kind of surrounds you. It's very comfortable 30-ish degrees Celsius. You've got the smell of the salt water, not that, icky kind of saltwater smell, but a very, slight warm breeze transporting that odor to you. And I mean odor in a very positive sense. So anyhow, it took me months to convey this feeling to other people to a degree where they would understand it. And we weren't even at the hospitality and at the friendliness and at the secure, the safe feeling that you had, right? And anyhow, that was like a very interesting experience, and it made me feel alone because I just couldn't convey it to people. I still can't. You're not going to be able, from my words, you're going to get, with the palm trees swinging and that light breeze and everything, you're going to get like a feeling for it. But you're not going to get the feeling that I had, this feeling of overwhelmedness. And that, sum that up with, north of a dozen countries I've lived and worked in. And each and every one of them was a unique and very enriching experience. And I'll never be able to share this with someone that, if at all, has spent their vacation somewhere at a pool in a foreign country because they were just, yearning for the sun. This experience is just unrelatable. And so anyhow, today's episode, I got a little bit carried away, but it was kind of necessary to give you the spin on what's going to happen the rest of the week, pretty much. So today's episode is stand up, even if it means standing alone. And I chose the name for this because once you learn how to stand alone for something, it becomes very easy, but it's very difficult to get there. And here's why. There's different ways that you can be standing alone. And there's different definitions for it. Number one would probably be the most enlightening one. You're kind of like in a foreign environment, and you have to kind of adapt despite the fact that, getting back to the Maldives, I'm not the tallest person in the world. I'm about, 190-ish, something. 1 meter and 90 centimeters. I don't know what that translates. Probably 5'9", 6 foot, something like that. And these people were quite tiny in comparison, right? And so I was sticking out like a sore thumb. So in and of itself, I was standing alone, right? Because everybody was looking at me when I went into the main city where, all the tourists had kind of left for their resorts, and you go over to the main island, and it's very, it's quite uncommon to see a foreigner there. They just don't go there. So, or on very rare occasions they do. So anyhow, that was standing alone. So physically standing alone. Then you have standing alone with your opinion, right? You have an opinion, probably with a foundation to it, that you have the knowledge to defend that opinion. And that's number two, the standing alone with your opinion. Standing alone with a political opinion is kind of like the escalation of that. But it also means standing up for something that happens where nobody else will engage. And the example there is, for instance, the town that a little bit further away, the city close to the town that I grew up in, there was in a shopping district, there was, there were 3 assholes groping and sexually abusing, essentially, and beating up a girl. And none of the passerbys would engage and stop this nonsense. So it led to the fact that she was heavily injured, despite the fact that there were, hundreds of people probably walking by. This was, I think, on a Saturday many years ago. And this was debated heavily by our local lodge of Freemasons. And I was there for that debate. And it was rather interesting, the complaining about nobody being capable of being moved to stop this situation. This kind of civil courage kind of thing that went there. And so, it was very interesting because most of those people that I was confronted with there were intellectuals, and I couldn't see them necessarily stopping the situation. And honestly, I don't know how I would have reacted if, it was 1 against 3. That's kind of shitty odds, and if they're the right type of motherfuckers, they're armed, there's one-on-one is fair, but these assholes weren't in it for fair, they were in it for their, let's call it bloodlust, for a lack of better words right now. And so I was contemplating a lot how I would have reacted really to this, and in today's age with, cell phone and everything, it's quite easy to at least take a video of it frightening them thereby. But, if you find amongst, let's say, a few dozen people passing by, no one that'll engage with you, it's like a suicide commando, right, that you're going into. Anyhow, long story short, that's that. Now, the physical standing alone is standing up for your ideals, getting back to the basics, right? If you dress differently, for instance, because it's your style, because, perhaps you like to provoke, you like to wear different kind of clothes, then that's fine. That's up to you. So long as you don't, walk around butt naked, and even that, it's more the conservative people that are kind of pissed off about that. But, it's about defining yourself. So that will essentially make you stand alone. If you like to dress differently, whatever differently means, perhaps you are the kind of person that likes to go out and in their, best suit and, well-dressed, while other people will not necessarily give a fuck and walk out in their, tracksuit and their and their Crocs. So it's like being alone takes a lot of guts, and standing alone takes a lot of guts in all of the ways that I just mentioned. And what I mentioned with the Maldives, it was difficult to kind of put the fact away that I was about 1 head taller than the average person walking around there. So that made it difficult in and of itself. But if you are, let's say, someone that wants to dress differently, that wants to provoke, or, provocation can just mean that it's, not normal, right? The way you dress, you're not uniforming with the rest, you're just sticking out. And if that's your thing, go ahead. Is it going to make you feel alone? Yeah, but the people who actually pull that through are, I think, more admirable in any case than those, hundreds of thousands walking around in their, this is just now modern uniform. And, tip of the hat to those who actually do their thing. Now, let's get more into the probably more and most complex things, which is like standing up for your opinion and standing up for, the next escalation, the political opinion. Now, standing up for your opinion, I think, is totally valuable. And I admire those people who do that. And here's why. We have so many people who in a discussion cave in because they, take their, they have their sillily, weakly researched opinion about something. And then along comes someone that knows something about what they're talking about and talks them into the corner, and then they cave in. And those people are, I don't know what they are, but in any case, they should have done their homework. And while, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago, this would have been difficult because you would have had to go to the library. Today, there is no fucking excuse for it. You've got the world's knowledge at your fingertip. And if you're interested about something, and you're convinced about something because you did your research, then you're good to go. However, if you have a dumbfounded idea about something, like an initial idea, and it could and would and should, that's not factual. And so if you get talked down by someone today, you've been using too much fucking WhatsApp on your phone, or whatever, Candy Crush or what, you've got the world's knowledge at your fingertips and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, then you fucking missed out. And it doesn't interest you. If it doesn't interest you, or it's something that you can't do, then be honest about it, right? And say, I don't know, right? You towards the person trying to talk to you is like, I don't know anything about that. Haven't done my homework. Sorry. But that's the standing up for your opinion. And if your opinion is different, that's fine. Most of us are blessed with living in a country that has a certain amount of freedom of speech, so long as you don't piss off the leader, but that's where we're going to get to political opinions in a moment. But other than that, you're pretty open to saying what you think and having your opinion. And even if that means, having a pissing contest with someone, it doesn't mean you can't be friends, right? Just because you have a different opinion about something. And that's kind of like what's changing in these times, which I find quite worrisome, particularly about this COVID thing. There are so many friendships and family feuds, arising and, friendships being destroyed on this topic where I'm like, wait, whoa, this is interesting, and living in such a polarized time. Let's see how that develops. But in any case, that makes it even harder to defend your opinion. And so chapeau to those who actually manage to do that. That being said, political opinions, I think last but not least, are probably the most fucking difficult thing in the world to really stand up for and stay standing, because you've got so many different opinions. And if you have a good political debater, it's very hard talking them into the corner. Germany, for instance, the country that I reside in, has just had this big debate or this big corruption scandal where I think it was north of a dozen members of parliament, most of them belonging to, of all parties, the Christian Democratic Union, were caught for corruption. Well, no, sorry, I have to rephrase that. They were not caught for corruption. They're actually under investigation for corruption because they were doing shady dealings about masks being delivered to Germany. And so they got their tip off and everything. One of them was, I think, 600,000 euros for delivering, a few masks. And you were like, I live in a civilized nation. How can this happen? Right. And that being said, I don't know where I'm going with this, to be perfectly honest. But, you will find people from this party that will try to convince you that it was okay because Germany needed masks, because there were no masks, right? And for a year now, everybody's been walking around with a cloth mask, and all of a sudden it's not good enough. And all of a sudden, where the supply is there, it has to be, you have to wear a medical grade mask. And curiously, only those that are in supply, not the other ones. So it's like, long story short, political debates and standing for your political position is very interesting. And I admire those who build kind of like the right and the left extreme, because it's, that's obviously even more difficult. The further you move away from the center, the more difficult it's going to be for you to stand your ground in debating with people. However, everyone has taught us that a parliamentary democracy needs the entire spectrum of parties to find a justified center, to have a real center. Because like in Germany, if you take the right wing away, which we do here regularly, for historical purposes, your political movement, your political realm is going to be off center, right? Because you've taken the extreme right out of the equation. You've left the extreme left there. That's okay. Taken away the extreme right, and thereby you're kind of shifting this entire half circle towards the left, right? And so the center of what is not 180 degrees anymore, but, maybe 165, the center is off, where, it's just physics or mathematics. So, in that sense, it's very interesting. And perhaps we're going to do an episode about that in the future, because that's one of the most interesting topics a lot of people don't know about Germany, that these people are being pursued severely. And anyhow, long story short, where else? Well, we got the political opinion. We got the sticking out like a sore thumb, your personal way of living, and standing up for what you believe in, whatever that may be, is very admirable. However, it doesn't free you from having a debate with other people every now and again to defend your position, because the more debates you have, the better you get at defending it. And you know where I'm getting to. So in any case, we've breached the 20-minute mark. Never wanted to do that again. I wish you a successful day. If you know someone, the drill, send it, share it, this episode far and wide, because I think, this about being alone is very important, or learning to be alone is very important. So today we outlined what it means and what you can stand for, which could potentially make you stand alone. And tomorrow we're going to go into, well, I called the episode, "If you want to be strong, learn to be alone." And that's kind of like episode 2, which is good because we kind of jammed everything. We kind of fucked everything up today. So anyhow, long story short, successful day. Good night. See you tomorrow on Solitude again. Peace out, folks. See you tomorrow.